Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Holden Brothers. I'm Willie.
I'm Steven, what's up?
And today is the day. We have finally made it to the reveal of this motor. We've been talking about it for a little while, and I'm ready to show it to you guys. So, here it is. And for those of you who are looking at this saying, I know exactly what that is, well, I don't believe you. If you will come around the back side of this thing, you will see that this motor is an ISB. If you look up here on the top side of this motor, you can tell that this is a 12 valve. Now, that ought to be a little bit confusing, because they never built an ISB 12 valve, not American made, not like this. What does ISB mean? Interact System B. And that's typically something that you would hear when you're talking about a 24 valve, because they are electronically controlled. The thing that makes this engine so cool and so rare is the fact that it is a 12 valve common rail. This is a factory built Cummins engine. It uses a high pressure pump. This is not your typical CP3. This is a smaller pump. That is a Delphi pump. And this is super, super cool because we have the ability to control this thing and tune this thing, change fueling and timing parameters, adjustable everything. I have a base file for this that has full fuel control. Never seen one. Ever. We've been working on 12 valves our entire life. Never seen one. Never heard one run. Never a lot of things. So that's why this was so intriguing whenever we heard about it. This motor actually came from a very well-known performance diesel engine parts provider. I'm not going to name drop, but believe me, you know who they are.
He's a good friend of ours.
Very good friend of ours. And he called us because he was cleaning out some of his stuff, and he said, man, I've got some stuff that you guys are absolutely going to have. This is one of two engines that we got from him. The other one we are going to show you in another video. It is even more rare than this thing. But yeah, as soon as we got there and saw this thing, absolutely had to have it. I knew that we had to have this. We've been tuning common rails for a few years. Yes, more than a few, probably about 10 now. I'm not going to say we're the best tuners, but have learned over time how to do this in a very effective, efficient way. And we've tuned multiple of our own trucks. We tuned Stevens Duramax to 1,000 horse. We tuned my Mega Cab to 1,000 wheel horse, both of them from stock trucks, basically. So there's a whole lot of learning curve in between doing all that. So we're really confident that we can make this thing run exactly like we want. I had a really hard time getting ECM connectors for this thing because this engine was not built in the United States of America. In fact, if you come around here, you can see that a lot of the writing on here is written in Japanese, or Chinese rather. This motor was built, I think, in Singapore, but this is a 2017, September 11th, 2017. This is a brand spanking new engine.
0 miles on it.
0 miles, never been ran. This is a Tier 3 emissions engine. I believe Tier 2 or Tier 3. This is not built and sold in America, which is why you never see them.
Medium duty.
It's a medium duty application. It's like Fumoso or Fumoto
or
medium duty
Fujo,
truck.
one of them cab over looking landscaping trucks or something.
You can kind of tell, anybody who's ever worked on anything medium duty, you can tell by the way that the engine mounts are set. You know, right here at the back side, it mounts up front, kind of like a UPS truck or a Frito-Lay truck or whatever. So this was meant for a commercial application.
The turbo is also reversed on it.
The manifold is
so
set.
The compressor's coming from the back and the exhaust is out the front, opposite of what's in your pickup or big truck or something.
Also still cool, this thing ought to have a really good exhaust note because it's still a center exit in true 12 valve fashion. It just dumps down, which is We're thinking,
something.
This might actually work out for compounds. We thought about flipping this manifold over. We're going to do a lot of work to this truck. We're going to work with a company on the nozzles for this thing when we start tuning this truck, when it actually goes in my first gen dually, we're gonna start, you know, turning it up and seeing what we can make out of this thing. Best we can tell, the architecture of the engine is your typical 12 valve, so it's got a forged rod in it.
What was the power rating on it?
It's a 180 horse rated motor, factory. So really cool. They've got a common rail. The piston bowl is super cool because it's a reentrant, but common rail style. Just a super badass motor, something that you're never gonna see. I can't wait to hear this thing run. I can't wait to hear this thing run at 5,000 RPM on some big boosts.
Big turbos.
Yeah, we were super excited. So, yeah, got this thing from him, and we've been going through all the motions to try to make it run. So I had to get on AliExpress to find the ECM connectors. I waited 3 months to get the connectors here.
This is how they showed up.
They showed up with all the ends diked off, which is fine. I happen to have the engine side piece on the computer, so it has the main engine harness. I've got some serial connectors and some stuff that are here. For flashing purposes or diagnostic purposes. I have to wire in the diagnostic plug off of this side, and I've also got to wire in a few other little trinkets that are there. But what I've got here right now is your basic power supply, your ground supply, the weight to start, and I think this is maybe ignition feed. I forget what it is. I had them pinned out 2 or 3 days ago to try this. And so what I've done is taken the jump box and powered this stuff up and was able to turn the ignition feed wire on and hear the injection pump, the fuel control actuator and the pump actually come on. You can kind of hear it whoop, make a little noise. So I know that we've got the ECM turned on and active. What we're going to try to do today, or what we're going to really push to do, is to hear this truck run. It calls for a Teleflex Morse or a Williams control throttle position, which is your dual 5-volt reference. TPS. I've got one in a truck outside, but I think the truck will start without the TPS. So, or the engine will start. What we're going to do, actually, yeah, Steven went and got this block off plate. We made a couple of these on some hot rod 12 valve builds we did. We've got an extra one left over off of a motor we tore down. And I'm going to pull the air compressor off of this thing, and I'm going to pull the hydraulic or the power steering pump off of this because this engine is factory sealed. It has all the caps on everything, and so this has fluid inside of it that they use for as your initial startup lubricant. And if I crank this thing up, it's going to shoot stuff out all over the ground.
This thing's going to want to make mad air pressure, and we have nowhere for it to go.
Exactly. So we've got a couple things we're going to do. We've got the oil supply and the oil drain that's going to come off of this. In fact, I think the drain comes out the front side of this gear, so we should be good with a pipe plug in the side of the block to cut off that oil supply to there. We're going to move a few things around. There's no coolant in the motor, so we're not going to worry about the coolant stuff. We're going to throw this block off plate on so that we're not driving our accessories. The ones that matter anyway are all hooked up or gear driven on the front side. And we didn't have the right fittings for the supply and the return on this thing, so we just took some 1/2-inch hose and 3/8 hose, sleeved it up over the threads. We're going to throw a hose clamp on that thing just because this is all temporarily being assembled so that we can try to fire this thing up and hear it run. So I'm going to get started on pulling this stuff out. We're going to get a battery charger, pin out the rest of the wires that I think we're going to need to get this thing to run, grab our jump box and the power probe so we could ignite the starter, and hopefully hear this thing run, guys. Y'all stick around. So right here on the side of it, it came with a air compressor because it was a medium duty truck. The backside was the hydraulic or power steering pump that was sitting there, and we didn't need any of that stuff. We got it set over here to the side. Had to pop the front engine mount off to access some of the other fasteners. We had a block off plate we've used before on other 12 valve builds where this wasn't necessary, manual gearbox and stuff like that. So we happen to have one of those here. Threw that guy on. We've got the few powers and grounds tied together. I've got a couple of other loose ends that are out here. I was going to use it as like the wait to start light. I was going to try to throw a bulb on that and ground it, and just to let me know that the ECM is actually turning on and trying to do what it's going to do. But I don't know that I'm even going to do that. I think we're just going to go straight into cranking and see if it'll start. I don't think we really modified anything on the other side of the motor, did we, Steven? This was all good to go. We kind of got the starter rigged up here, ground, power going to this thing. For whatever reason, this relay that triggers a starter solenoid and shoots the Bendix out, that guy does not want to work. So we bypassed him. Steven went over and just crimped a ring terminal onto a lead so that we can make this thing crank over. And we've already had it crank over a couple times. And we can tell that we're making oil pressure because so I fall down. We can tell that it's making oil pressure because the turbo went from having some drag on it whenever we were to spin the thing to, spinning like a champion. You can feel with your hand that it's lubricated compared to what it was. And we also saw oil up top here. So we know we got oil where it matters. We've got a fuel pump. We actually use this to evacuate fuel out of trucks, like when we're going to do a fast and a sump. We got one of these that we pulled out of like a VP44 truck or something, right? Or a stock.
This one, or this is out of like a 06, I think.
Common rail Cummins.
Yeah.
That we did a fast on or something. We just plucked it out. It was still working, so we used that guy to evacuate the tanks. Again, real simple. This is all for test purposes, so we just sleeved a piece of 1/2 inch, had a plastic barb, a few hose clamps, nothing real crazy at all, guys. I pulled this connector back, and we've identified pins 2, 4, and 6, pins 1, 3, and 5, and then we found pin 15. And then we also found pin, I believe it's pin 34, which is what I have wired in here. And this is just a light like off of an amp set that we took off, and we kept the LEDs for whatever reason. But I had one of these in the box, so I wired this guy up, gave it the hot that the ECM is going to see the whole time. The ground is over here, and then we've got our ignition wire to turn everything on. So with this all set up like this, we can actually see the wait to start light illuminate, which will tell us that the ECM is turned on and that it is in the run state, meaning that it's going to be ready to crank. So theoretically what we should see is turn the key on, which is going to be touch this wire to hot to simulate the ignition key coming on, and we should see this light illuminate, and it should stay on for somewhere around, I don't know, probably 3 to 5 seconds, and then it should go basically dim, and that's how we'll know that the ECM has turned on, read the intake air temperature sensor up top, and it has told the truck to send a signal to the computer that it's time to start the engine, which would illuminate the wait to start light. So right now, I'm going to kind of rig this up real quick while y'all are watching and see if we get a wait to start light. So this is my jerry-rig fuel pump. I've got my fuel pump sitting in here out of a late model, like a 3rd gen Dodge. Got my return line, supply lines hooked up, and this is my fuel pump. So here we go. Power. We're rolling. Nothing leaking. This is our full-time power that's going to supply the ECM power on this leg here, and it will provide power to the light. What it doesn't provide is the ground, which is the ECM's job, and we're going to see if that works. So we're going to hook this up. Okay, no magic smoke, which is good. And now, when we touch this wire to here, we should see this light light up and then dim. So here we go. Cross your fingers. There's wait to start. And off. Outstanding. This thing is doing everything that it's supposed to. So far, the ECM is turning on. It's running through the intake air temperature sensor. It thinks that it's ready to run. So as long as we don't have something stupid keeping us from starting, we bypassed everything in the ECM, clutch interlock and neutral safety switch, all that stuff, because remember, we're hardwired up over here. We got everything else bypassed so that we can just jump past all that stuff we should, theoretically, if we got fuel pressure and get the air out of the system, this thing should be ready to fire. And y'all watching and us will maybe be some of the first people in America, at least, to hear a 12-valve common rail run. Let's see what happens. There's wait to start. Lights out. Fired up. There we go. All right, guys, so there you go. 12-valve common rail, fired up and running. You know what it sounds like. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what we're going to do from here to get ready for the next video, because we plan on covering this thing quite a bit. Now that we got this thing running, it's all basically downhill from here. So yeah, I'm going to flip the camera around here real quick and tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. We have the block off plate already in place here, so we're going to clean up some of the other coolant lines and stuff, swap the rear engine cover over on this piece, probably put a 12-valve starter on this thing so we can just be dealing with a lot more of the parts that are going to be on this engine in final assembly. Like I said, it's going to go in that first gen truck, so we're going to try to get it as close to being able to be set in the frame of the truck as possible. The frame of the truck's actually just sitting outside of the building right now. Got the bed actually at up at the paint shop up in Fredericksburg. Really good buddies painting that thing. I'll introduce y'all to that guy later. Super cool dude. And we're gonna get the cab loaded up on the trailer and taken up there to him while we're working on some of this other stuff here. Excuse me while I fall down. So we've got a few things we need to button up, you know, get the fuel lines and stuff right, swap the engine cover over on the back side.
Hey, these coolant necks will swap right over to the factory first gen stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's all the same pattern and everything.
That's what's so cool about this, guys. This is a genuine Cummins engine, so all the typical stuff that would fit on a 12-valve are basically most all of it anyway.
Right there.
All the bolt locations are there. The rear engine cover determines the starter that's going on it. So when we swap a Chrysler one over onto this thing, we'll be able to run a more common starter, get these motor mounts from up here off the front, put your more standard mount down here. We'll have to relocate the ECM to a little bit different location, which is fine. We're going to clean up some of the stuff on the side of this. Not sure, we'll probably start it with the pump that's on it for now, but the plan is to CP3 swap it, or maybe go to the Delphi pump like off an L5P maybe. I need to see what the bolt pattern is and the hub size and all that. We've got to do a little bit of figuring out on that. But yeah, I mean, we came in here and we made a 12-valve common rail run today. Hey, why don't we fire this thing up again? It's a beautiful sound. I think we should just end the video with some 12-valve common rail love one more time. Let's hook this bad boy up. Fuel pump's running. Stick this through here. That's my ignition or wait to start. Hang on. Get this guy down in there. All right. We're good to go on this side. Steven, crank it up. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Y'all stay tuned. Till next time.